Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Dorwood, President and CEO of Roxgold. Roxgold is developing the very high-grade gold project Yaramoko in Burkina Faso, located to the southwest of Ouagadougou. 2014 is shaping up to be a very, very busy year for Roxgold. Our primary focus is on taking the project through development. Coming down the pike at the moment, we're very busy working on our bankable feasibility study. This follows up our preliminary economic assessment that we released in September 2013. And the bankable feasibility is scheduled to be released probably in the upcoming quarter, in the second quarter of this year, and targeting sort of towards the front end of the quarter, not the back. We're also starting to get into the permitting process in Burkina Faso. We have an environmental social impact assessment, our ESIA, which is just having the finishing touches put to it for lodgement with the environmental regulator in Burkina Faso within the next 2 or 3 weeks. In addition, we continue to run a focused regional exploration program, and I'll take you through some of the highlights and some of the very exciting projects that we've started to uncover, and while early days, have a significant amount of promise in delivering further high-grade gold at this project. Just to orientate everybody, we are located in Burkina Faso, which I think rightly enjoys a very good reputation as a jurisdiction in which to develop gold projects. I think the proof of the mining-friendly nature of the jurisdiction is in the fact that 7 new mines have been commissioned in the past 5 years. The permitting process is very transparent and the timelines are well understood, and we've had a number of projects have their ESIA approved and subsequently get issued mining conventions in the past 6 or 12 months. For 2013, we really spent a lot of time building up our executive team. We've added a lot of experienced people. Every person on this slide has either worked or developed or both gold projects in Francophone West Africa and Africa in more general. Paul Criddle, our Chief Operating Officer, leads the technical side of our team. Paul and I work together at the Sabodala project, which is now the flagship operation for Teranga, and he also had a number of years' experience constructing the Edikan project in Ghana, as well as other projects throughout West Africa. And we've hired a very experienced mining engineer from Newmont, Craig Richards, who's had about 7 years with Newmont in Ghana underground, 8 years at Obuasi, and a similar number of years at Bulyanhulu. So he's a rather rare person insofar he's had over 20 years of actual underground experience in Africa. The second focus for us last year was to grow the resource. We came into the company in September 2012. The maiden resource had been published at just over 500,000 ounces. As you can, the grade of that on a combined basis was 15 grams per tonne, and we spent a significant amount of time and effort last year infill drilling and doing some down plunge extensional drilling, and we took that resource at just over 500,000 ounces through 1 million ounces. That was our goal, and we were very pleased to be able to achieve that. And we think we now have the building blocks or the foundation for a successful underground mining operation. As you can see, in the indicated category, we just have just under 800,000 ounces at a very impressive 17.15 grams per tonne, and another 250,000 ounces of inferred. One of the things to note about this project is that the inferred grade has always come up closer to the indicated grade as we put more holes into it. This is not a geological constraint, it's very much a drill hole database constraint. Just to put it into context, projects like Yaramoko are extremely rare. At sort of approximately half an ounce, it's the second highest grade undeveloped gold mine in the world, and I think the fact that it now stands at plus 1 million ounces starts to sort of tick the boxes as to not only is this project high grade, it's also starting to develop some scale to make it a meaningful project as we go forward. The ore geometry at Yaramoko is very straightforward. It's hosted within a granite. It's effectively, if you can imagine, a granite block has been rotated and it's split open and then flooded with mineralisation. There were two phases of mineralisation. It's associated with a pressure drop, so the mineralisation is well distributed throughout the vein. It's one single vein, subcrops, and we've tracked it as far as 900 metres. Down here, hole 250 at 900 metres was approximately an ounce over nearly 3.5 metres. So the deposit is alive and well at depth. In the top half of the deposit up here, which will be the focus of the upcoming feasibility study, there's approximately, we anticipate, 7 to 8 years of mine life, generating approximately 100,000 ounces per year. And I'll take you through a little bit of the economics, what we saw on the PEA, and why we believe that this will be very strongly cash generative. The second part of the story is really down in this area here, predominantly inferred. We don't believe that this will be captured in the PEA, but that's not a problem for us. We think that the 750,000 ounces up here give us enough time to get into production, generate a cash flow, develop some underground drilling targets, and then really attack this area here in terms of infilling. We'd like to start looking along the flanks of the deposit along the west and the east. As you can see, along this western structure there are some very high-grade results. They tend to, there's an overall plunge to the east, but there is a series of high-grade chutes that sort of run in a southerly direction through there, and you can sort of see them. Probably if I wave a red light, it makes it a bit easier to see them. But anyway, we're chasing those up, so we think we have a great opportunity to add strike extent laterally around here below 400 metres, and also to the east it's completely open and undrilled and remains completely open at depth. 4 of the 5 holes, as you can see, below 700 metres are very high grade and would be just as comfortable sitting up here in the high grade component of this part as they are down there. So I think it bodes very well for our abilities to grow the deposit. I think when we put our feasibility out, we'll have a nice strong foundation, 7 or 8 years production, and clearly delineated drill targets in terms of another 500,000 ounces or so of inferred material that we can drill out and economically drive the ramp and decline down to. The PEA that we published in September is becoming a little redundant the more we learn about the feasibility, but I think in terms of giving you a feel for the scale of the project, it's still very useful. The interesting thing to remember about the Yaramoko project is clearly the high-grade nature, and what the high-grade nature allows us to do is still generate a very worthwhile 100,000 ounces a year, but the footprint and the throughput of this project are tiny. Now, generally, in the mining business, the smaller your project, the less expensive it's going to be to develop. And that's highlighted by our pre-production capital of $94 million. So with a initial capex below $100 million, we think we've got a project that is manageable in this market. It's not that we're a $20 million market cap company trying to build a $250 million project. The balance is much more in our favour, and I think it gives us the opportunity to develop a project with an appropriate capital structure. We don't have to go and completely dilute our existing shareholders. We don't have to leverage up too much and put too much financial risk on the project. It's just simply put a very manageable project. At $1,300, we generated just under $200 million NPV, but the number that's of most interest to me is the internal rate of return. 47.7% IRR after tax at $1,300 gold and a 1.4 year payback. If you're a little bit more pessimistic about the future than I am, you would see at $1,100 we still generate a plus 30% IRR. And I would put it to you that there are very few projects in the world today that can offer sort of the returns like this. Just in terms of what the project will look like, we're targeting a throughput of about 270,000 tonnes per year, or about 740 tonnes per day. Again, very manageable. I think we'll see a production profile that gets smoothed out. So as we don't push the mine quite so deep in the feasibility study, and we take some of the inferred material out, we harvest a lot more of the rib and sill pillars in the higher parts of the mine that were left within the PEA model, because we'll use a lot more cemented rockfill. Given the grade of the material that we're talking about, it certainly leads us to taking a much more using a lot more cemented rockfill to make sure we get all of this high-grade material. Turning to costs, and again, we expect these will change a little bit in the feasibility study, but we are not seeing anything that makes us think that the project is not heading in the right direction. Total cash costs in the first 5 years, $455 per ounce, including royalties. All-in sustaining cost for the life of the mine, including some of those years in the inferred material that I think we'll be able to improve upon, was still just over $700 an ounce. So this is, as you would expect from a project that's effectively half an ounce, very strong metrics. A little breakdown of the capital. Again, you probably will not be seeing many projects with these sort of numbers at the show here this year. And again, I just reinforce the fact this is very small. A lot of the equipment that will go into this project is off the shelf. We don't have to book times in foundries to do our SAG mill or our ball mill. It's all very small. It's all very scalable. We're going to design the project with the ability to increase throughput if we are successful in our efforts on the exploration front and can find a new source of ore. But I think it's enough to be said is it just really rounds out there at $94 million. Metallurgy is very straightforward. As I mentioned earlier, this deposit was a pressure deposited associated deposit. It's very clean. It doesn't have any evidence of refractory or preg robbing aspects at all. One item to note is the extremely high gravity recoveries, runs between 60 and 90%, and then very high overall recoveries, whether you do whole ore recoveries or gravity plus CIL, you are in the very high 90s. When you're dealing with a head grade of this nature, it does pay to go to that extra effort and put a CIL plant on the end and drag out as much gold as you possibly can. A very straightforward flow sheet. This, in terms of, apart from the size being small, it's about very similar to most other CIL plants in West Africa. We're not going to be winning any R&D awards in this project. It's got a very large relative gravity concentration sector, so we can pull a lot of that gold out early on, cheaper ounces. And we think that we're designing this plant with a footprint that will allow us to easily increase production once we get into cash flow, and assuming that our Ben, who's here with us today, and his team can find our next source of ore. Just a little schematic of how the plant will look. When you stand up on our viewpoint and you look over it, it's very compact. Importantly, our host community here, Bagassi, is nicely located at about 2 kilometres away, and it's sitting behind this rather prominent lateritic ridge. So we think that our impact on our community should be muted. Importantly, we don't have to relocate anyone. There is no relocation action plan associated with Yaramoko. There is the usual crop compensation that you would expect. Again, a very transparent process in Burkina Faso. But some of the issues in this part of the world, in terms of social issues, usually stem when you need to move large numbers of people. We do not need to move anyone. We'll be building a water storage facility, which is generally considered very popular in this part of the world. We have some nice topography there to assist us with our water storage and our tailings, and building a camp and quite a nice little compact unit. So the feasibility study is on track. We're working well. SRK are leading it, and Mintrex, a firm in Perth, has many years' experience in projects of this nature. It's coming down the road very nicely, and we anticipate being able to release it in the next couple of months, and look forward to describing the economics and where we see the project heading. I'll just touch briefly on exploration. Don't have a lot of time, but just to let you know, the 55 zone is stuck right here in the middle of our Yaramoko concession. There's a big regional structure that heads to the northwest, and the 55 zone effectively splays off. We're looking for more of these, obviously. We have some good targets. Bagassi South, just here, which is 2 kilometres away, is over 40 grams at 4.4 metres. So we've had some high grade there, and we're drilling at that target at the moment. So we're very positive about what we might find. Other targets here include the Haho, where you've got another granite that's been twisted around and bashed around, butting up hard against the bony shear zone. This is, in terms of conceptual targets, which we're now starting to do some work on, it's the most exciting. It's about 3 kilometres by 3 kilometres, so it has a much larger footprint than we do at Yaramoko. Just a few targets. It's our exploration program, very, very active, both drilling and early stage generative work. A couple of key targets, and I'm running out of time now, so just to show you what we're doing, everything is aimed towards getting to our feasibility study, and then we'll be into the financing mode, and hopefully, and our plan is to be well into construction in the second half of 2014. So with that, I'd just like to thank you all for your attention, and hope you enjoy the conference. Any questions, please come and find us at booth 1105. Thank you very much.